Welcome to the Williamsville Public Library Museum. Today is Wednesday, September 20th, 2023, and we're talking to Joyce Barregarye about her life in the Williamsville area. So thank you for joining us, Joyce. So let's just start at the beginning. Can you tell us about your family? You've grown up in this area. Tell us a little bit about your parents, your siblings.
Okay, my parents was Donald and Sarah Poe. My mother's maiden name was Grass, and they lived north of Williamsville. I was born January the 13th, 1941.
And you had siblings?
And I had two sisters and a brother. My sister's name was Marie Patterson, her married name, Raymond Poe, and Kay Sapp.
Did you live out in the country then?
Yes, we lived in the country, maybe a half a mile north of Williamsville, and then we moved south of Williamsville and lived around Sherman, Andrew area.
So what was your childhood like growing up in the country? Did you enjoy it? What kind of things did you do?
Yes, we mainly played with our brothers and sisters and our cousins, the Miller kids, Grinders, the Schroll kids that lived here in Williamsville. But that was mainly our had chores to do. And
what kind of chores did you have to do?
Mainly it was like feed the rabbits, help with dishes.
Sure.
Sometimes as I got older, I can remember going to the field and sitting up in the corn, and as my dad would come by, you'd hand him down the bucket to fill the planter. We weren't worked too hard.
So you got the advantages of living on the farm and a little bit of the responsibility that came with it.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go to school then?
I went to Williamsville, started first grade up here in Williamsville, and the first grade school where the black family now has a home.
And then?
We moved to, still in the Williamsville district, but then I went to Sherman grade school, and of course it wasn't large enough, so they had an old Bice school out east of Sherman. I went there 1 year because that was just a one class. And then I went to Bice, and then in the sixth grade they opened the new school in Williamsville, and I was the first class in that sixth grade.
Great. And then you went to Williamsville High School?
Went to Williamsville High School.
What do you remember most about growing up in the Williamsville area?
It was a big treat to get to come to town.
Okay.
Go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Go to the free shows. That was a big event in the summers for us.
What free shows? Where was that at?
In the Boulevard uptown.
So were those movies and such that they'd show on the weekends?
It was the movies it was on Wednesday nights.
Oh, okay.
They would show the movies, and then of course they'd have an intermission.
Okay.
And of course we'd always look up and find some of the friends we had from school or some of our cousins. I don't know that I watched the movies as much as talk to the friends and play.
So it was a chance to socialize.
Right.
Growing up on the farm, obviously you learned a little bit of the responsibilities, having your chores and such, but what other kind of values or lessons do you think your parents taught you?
I think another thing was like on Sunday mornings, we always went to Sunday school. We come up here and went to the Christian church.
Sure.
Went to Sunday school. I think that probably with my mother, honesty was one of the biggest things. We were always reprimanded if she didn't think that we were kind to other people. Sometimes if you was a little older and some of the cousins visited, you might get a little testy with them.
So you had a lot of cousins in the area?
Yes. I can't tell you exactly how many.
That's okay. You think maybe
70, 80.
But you had a lot of extended family, should we say, in the area. Between friends and family, you had a lot of
and their spouses
people.
And stuff. We would have reunions, and we'd have, in fact, a few of the reunions was held at my grandmother's house here in Williamsville on Main Street.
So did your grandparents, both sets of grandparents, live in the area?
At one time, my mother's parents, I said, lived north of Williamsville just a little bit, but then they moved to Girard.
Oh, okay.
But my grandmother, all my life, lived in Williamsville.
So then it seems pretty natural that you have been in the Williamsville area for a while. Did you stay here as an adult too?
Yes. In fact, I married in 1961, and my first husband, who's now deceased, we lived over Patterson Brothers.
Oh, okay.
And I had opened a beauty shop in Williamsville. Now it was a doctor's office at one time. Now it's part of the Italian restaurant uptown.
You got married and you had the beauty shop. And then did you have kids?
Two sons, Mark and Dan. They both graduated from Williamsville High School, and so did my 4 grandchildren.
Wow, all right. It's quite the legacy. And are your sons still in the area?
Yes. One lives in Andrew and one lives in Sherman.
So in addition to your extended family and running your business, how else were you involved in the community? Were there other ways that you were involved?
Church. I attended church here at Williamsville.
Which one?
The Christian church.
Oh, okay.
We had 4-H. As children, we were very active in. As an adult, I was in the community foundation when it first was formed. And then when I was employed at the bank, Williamsville State Bank, myself and a couple others, we started what they call the Golden Lifetime Club.
Oh, okay.
And it was for seniors.
Okay.
And we did bus trips and had potluck suppers.
Okay.
We'd have speakers come in for them. We thought of things they would be interested in.
And where did you host that?
At the community center, some of it was right at the bank.
Okay.
And then, like I said, the bus trips, we would take them. I think the farthest we ever took them was we went to Missouri one time, and mainly it was ball games. We'd take ball trips to Chicago or St. Louis.
So you said you were there at the beginning of the Williamsville Community Foundation. Were there any particular events that you helped organize that really stick out in your mind? I mean, there are, I'm sure, a lot, but are there any ones that you're particularly fond of or that you remember specifically?
I think that's when they started the Autumn on the Boulevard. It was, of course, a lot smaller than it is now. I tell you, I can't remember a lot of the activities. I can remember going to the meetings and trying to get things started.
And do you remember why they wanted to do Autumn on the Boulevard? Why the Community Foundation?
I think it was to bring the local people back and show the crafts, and it was just a gathering thing.
Kind of highlight some of the talent in the Williamsville area and give people an excuse to get together.
And of course, even going back in times when I was young, they had homecomings. We had the 100th anniversary, the centennial. I can remember coming and seeing my uncles and aunts, and even us kids, we dressed up in the old period costumes.
Right.
That was great fun.
The advantages of growing up in a small town.
Right.
A lot of times we think of Williamsville and we kind of focus on what's going on here, but obviously we're part of the state and the country. Were there any things that happen on a more national or international level even that you feel kind of changed or affected your everyday life here in Williamsville?
I think probably 9/11, and even before that, the death of President Kennedy.
Okay.
9/11 was, I think it changed us in the community. I always felt like we've kind of lived in a utopia. We were pretty safeguarded here from anything. As children, like I was born during and after World War II, I never realized there was a war. I never was hungry. I mean, you know, like there's so many stories you read. Polio affected, I think, the community. The main thing was is I couldn't go play with my cousins and go to your friends. And I missed the state fair.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that used to be a big part, an annual event that you guys would do?
Yeah, by being members of 4-H, that's where we would go and have a 4-H, and they would have the show where you would show your cattle and take your vegetable garden things, and that was always a big event for us.
So did you do 4-H all through school then?
I would say up until about my sophomore year in high school.
Okay. You did all of that through school and then graduated, and how soon after graduation did you get married then?
I graduated in 59 and I was married in 61.
Okay. And then you ran your beauty shop, and then what made you decide to go to work at the bank? We
built a new home and moved to Andrew, and by this time I had 2 children, and trying to run a beauty shop and maintain 2 children.
Right.
I think that I just didn't work, period, for a while. And then in 1974, I went to work for Land O'Lincoln Bank. At that time, John Watts ran Watts Brothers in Springfield, and that's where we would go get our medicine. And he said, you need to go over and talk to him. And so I thought I'd try it.
Okay.
And I worked there for 2 years. And then someone in the community said something about, why don't you go talk to the Jones family? They're looking for a employee. So that's in 76. That's when I then moved to Williamsville.
All right. And that's when you started your work at
State Bank. Yeah.
Williamsville State Bank. Okay. Thank you so much for coming today and sharing some of your memories of growing up in the Williamsville area. Appreciate it.
Thank you.